We had an amazing start to the market with the volatility halt right at the open, and after that we just had tons of range. So there's definitely lots of opportunities for both long and short. But the key is not to be too biased and to cut your losers when you recognize that you're wrong. So you want to cut your losers small, which is what I did on my CCL trade, which is my loser on the day. I came in short biased on the stock because the stock had a lot of negative headlines regarding them suspending their operations for the cruise lines. So you can see I definitely got chopped up, but I recognized when I was wrong that I cut my losers small. And then I didn't get squeezed all the way up there. And of course, in hindsight, I wish I flipped long. But I definitely did that with my other trade on RCL, another stock in the same sector, Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. You can see I was short biased as well on RCL, same idea as CCL. But for this one, I reacted fast enough to flip long when I recognized that, hey, there's a lot of strength. We are likely going to push towards the upside and retest at least the red to green. And also the stock was on SSR and SPY was popping after the unhold, after the 15 minutes unhold. So I want to join trend if I were, to trade the stock. So I flipped long here, sold into the push and added even bigger after we went red to green. And of course, I didn't catch the top. But what I was really proud of is that I was able to catch the meat of the move on the squeeze to the upside. And I didn't stay wrong for very long. So that's something that's very important when you're trading in this kind of volatility in the market. So that was a decent winner on the day. The other one, perhaps the biggest winner on the day, is OPGN. So I was short biased on the stock early and I went long after the squeeze right here. A lot of times this is one of those instances where I'm really happy that I took the meat of the move to the short side, because as you may remember in the past, there's been so many times where I'm short and I cover for only 50% of the move and miss a lot of downsides towards after $3 cracks we can go back to $2. But this is one of those instances where I'm so happy I took it and I didn't outstay my welcome, because this is another one of those low float stocks that loves to trap underneath VWAP and they'll just squeeze all the shorts out. So I short biased here, started in pre-market and added bigger size after we keep on rejecting the pre-market highs here and now covering into dips right here. And once this $3 starts to hold, that's why I took off the entire piece. And once it squeezed, I actually joined long. I'm really flexible in this kind of market. I'm able to go long and shorts depending on the trend, and of course the key for me is always the volume, and that's why I longed it here. We actually got halted. I was long into the halt, sold half after the unhold, the entire piece afterwards at 540s. So that's some nice gains on OPGN right here. The other one that was the miss of the day for me is MGM, which is too bad because this was actually one of my top watch on the day, and I definitely, minimized a lot of my gains. I added in bigger here after the short, but SPY was reclaiming red to green, and that's when I covered. And in hindsight, of course, we never reclaimed the highs again. We just kind of sold off and faded all day. So this was definitely, the miss on the day for me. And I think we can see more downside tomorrow. Let's see how it's set up. Another pretty decent day with lots of ranges and in all types of sectors. Right here is JNUG. This is one of the smaller trades on the day. I never got to add into bigger here. Futures for gold was extremely strong today, and the inverse, Dust and JDST, were really weak. If you look at JNUG, we've been selling off from all the way from $100 all the way down to single digits. So we have a lot of range to the upside as long as gold futures stay strong. And as you can see, I took a long here, never got to add. This would have been a perfect add right here, but I was away at the moment. And when that happens, I just started scaling out around this area and then up here, and then I left a stop all the way down here and I got stopped out. And that was the end of the trade. So ended up being a small winner on the day just because I never got to add. Even so, with the starter size, still really decent gains after making about 2 points to the upside. The other trades that were a little bit better was APRN. This one was a lot of great opportunities. So this one I was mostly long, and the reason this one caught a lot of people off guard is because they have about 7 or 8 million shares float. But it's not really like it's not a penny stock or anything. It's Blue Apron. It's a real company. I don't know how profitable they are. They got some volume squeeze yesterday after people are all staying from home, so the public is speculating that people are gonna order a lot more Blue Apron products and cook from home. So I'm not saying that's an investment strategy or anything, but I'm just saying that's what causes the squeeze yesterday, and today we saw a lot of follow through, and we didn't even pull back today. So imagine how many shorts got squeezed today. So I was just loaning the dips and selling around the core. I'm looking to add on the front side whenever it dips to VWAP, and which is what I did right here, here, and all the while selling into the push. Because every time we retest the $7 area, there's a lot of sellers. $7 right here, right? So if you look at the daily chart, there's a lot of people holding the stock around $7 and $8. So that's where we met a lot of heavy resistance. So, I want to sell into the pushes and do not outstay my welcome. And here, I was all out by this push. I tried to get back in, but it was midday and it was a little bit choppy, so I just kind of got out. In hindsight, this would have been a really good entry, risking around $6 area. But I didn't want to give back anything because on a stock like CODX, I made money early on and then I gave back a lot of it by going back. So that's the mistake on the day for me. CODX, I have a love-hate relationship with this stock from one of my previous videos. So I actually started scaling in short pre-market, and I was hoping for a volume squeeze into the open towards $15 to add even bigger, but it just kind of started fading off after retesting around 1480s, and we just kind of slowly dripped down. And I don't like to add on weakness on this stock. You can see I covered all of the shorts right here, and this is where I went back and gave everything back, as you can see. So I was trying to scale in again short and building a position, and I just kind of got chopped up here. Ended up giving back half the chunk of profit on CODX, which is definitely not worth it. I hate the stock now. But overall, have a really nice day with APRN and JNUG, and we'll likely see a lot more follow through tomorrow. We had an amazing move with APRN today. This stock literally ran from $8 all the way to $19 at the top of the day. So you definitely don't need to be shorting to make money in a down market like we are in right now. So again, just like yesterday, you see this volume squeeze and you see this is a low float stock. It's actually a real company, so it's not a penny stock. APRN, Blue Apron, they do food delivery, right? Today I was actually looking for more of a flush towards $8 to get long, but we didn't get that. But this is where I started accumulating. You can see adding on the dips here, but selling into the rips. I was actually recycling a lot of my long share sizes. After I sold, I always want to add back into strength, because again, this stock, once it breaks out above the $9 level, there's a lot of room to $10, and then if you look on the daily, room to 13, and I think there's a little bit more over there. I always want to make sure I get to sell into the push, and I kind of wish I sold some here. But as you can see, even after I scaled out around this area, I think we unhalted twice on the way up. Even after I scaled out, I'm not scared to add back in because I was seeing how strong the stock was. This is on the 5-minute chart, and if you go to the 15-minute chart, you can see the stock is on an uptrend, right? So that's why I started in long again right here, and added in even more. And I'm swinging some overnight because if you remember from my overnight swing strategy video, this is exactly the kind of setup, right? Sector sympathy, volume breakout on the daily, and holding very strong, and also a low float stock. So there's so many criteria that just add up for me to swing this overnight. I started selling some after hours just because it was already hitting one of my targets around $18. I just want to scale out on the way out, but I'm definitely still keeping a piece for what happens tomorrow. I think the stock has room all the way to 20s and even more tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. Very nice long trade on this, selling to the push and just adding on the dips. With stocks like this, APRN, every time it breaks out, there's a lot of selling pressure. So that's why I always want to make sure I I get to sell and not get caught on a rug pull like this, right? All the way from $17 down to $12. That's $5 of range. I don't want to get caught in that, and that's why I'm always make sure to sell into the push. When everyone's rushing in and chasing to buy, that's when I want to sell. So that's the big winner on the day. Let's talk about the loser on the day, of course, because that's very important. NIO. So I was, short bias on the stock. They had a terrible earnings and cutting guidance. So I scaled in short and added in here. And once it starts reclaiming this pre-market highs, 250s, I know it has room all the way to 260s. I stopped out. Literally, once I stopped out, the stock top ticks around 258 and started selling off. So, in hindsight, I should have added back in, but I was focused my eyes on APRN. So that's the loser on the day. The other one that didn't really add up to anything, PTON, Peloton, same kind of sector hype as the APRN because people are staying at home more now. Investors and buyers are speculating that these companies are gonna do well or whatever. We're not buying into the story here. We are trading the stock. But today for Peloton, there's not a lot of volume. You can see we kind of just chopped around. So, it ended up being a small loss. I got stopped out here and I didn't get to sell into the push because I was looking for a lot more towards $28 on the daily. Ended up being a scrap trade. So very exciting to see another low float multi-day runner such as APRN. And we'll see what tomorrow brings, hoping for an SES kind of action. So APRN was a stock that we held overnight. I held it from around 1520 with 1530s average. And as you remember from yesterday's recap, I sold some after hours. And then the last piece I sold right here. So I was all out on the overnight long position. And I was longing the dips until we crack this $19 and $20 level. And that's where I flipped short. And as you remember from my CODX big loss, when I'm short, I'm shorting a lot smaller size than my normal long size, just because it's not something I'm as confident in. As you can see, and when I'm shorting, I'm covering really soon. I was out most of it here, and then I was out the last piece. And I tried to go back at it after, we cracked this red to green line. And then the liquidity by that point just kind of dried out, and we're just kind of grinding. We didn't get any fast action. This is where I cut my short, and then I flipped long for a bit, hoping for a bounce. But, by that point, the volume just dried out, and I didn't want to get stuck in this kind of grinding action. So overall, a really good trade on this one on the long side, and the short side was just kind of tiny scalps here and there with a much smaller size. But the trade that actually worked out really well for me on the short side was BMRA. I actually took a loss on the long side on this one. So this stock was, extremely sketchy to trade. It was kind of following the action from APRN. So I was long here and I was long here, and I actually took a huge loss on the long, as you can see. I longed here, tiny win here, while it was stalling in around $22. That's why I took it off, and I tried to go in for the dip again, and I got caught on the dump right here. And then after this extended sell-off, and after seeing how heavy the tape was, that's why I started scaling in short. And I was really cautious on the short side because, again, the stock is easy to borrow, right? So that means anyone can short it. It was also, I believe, was it an SSR? So that makes it really difficult to short. And I'm always really cautious. So I wasn't as aggressive on the ads here as I was on the backside after seeing that it was so heavy and couldn't reclaim VWAP. So scaling into a winner, this is what I'm trying to do. And then, covering on the dips right here. And I went back a little bit more over here. But overall, the trade on this, I lost on the long side, but made better money on the short side, on this ticker. The other few trades that's worth mentioning, but I didn't do as good on, was Disney. So this is on my pre-market watch list, but I didn't expect it to rip all the way to $95, $97. As you can see, I sold way too soon here. But I had pretty good ads on the pullback here, seeing how strong the strength was. Buy was bouncing on the daily. And I went in, I gave back some, as you can see. So that's why I'm not as confident going back to the trade. But overall, nice little gain on this. The other trade is Uber. Similar trade as Disney. As you can see, I went back and I lost. So a lot of times I should just not go back. But this trade is also on the long side. After it broke this daily level around 1780s, we have a lot of upside to rip to $20, and that's why I was selling into the push here. So overall, we had a really good week in the market, very volatile. It just shows you that even when the market is tanking, you don't have to always short to make money. Overall, I still did better on the long side on all the trades this week overall, but there's definitely opportunities for either longs or short in this volatile market. So thank you guys for watching as always. If you're interested, you can sign up for my free weekend watch list that I send out every single Sunday. And I'll see you guys next week.